Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke. I hope you're doing very well today. It is now April 1st, 2019. It's a Monday, and I'm here in my home, just relaxing after a day at work. And I wanted to talk to you today about a very unique film that I have had the pleasure of watching many times. It is very unforgettable as a film watching experience, and it has a lot of facets to it that I dare say are quite, I'm not sure if ingenious is the right word, but they are quite fascinating in terms of how they kind of hang together. The film I'm talking about is this film. It's called The Room. So, The Room is a film that is written by Tommy Wiseau. It is produced by Tommy Wiseau, and it is directed by Tommy Wiseau. It stars Tommy Wiseau as Johnny, and the story is essentially about Johnny and his interactions with certain people in his inner circle, in his inner friend circle. The key figures in that being his girlfriend and future wife, Lisa, and his best friend, Mark. So therein lies the crux of the story of The Room. And so we have here a kind of drama, a very intense drama that plays out in terms of certain aspects. Sorry, I can't do it. It's essentially about Johnny's inner circle of friends as he is living and working in San Francisco. Among his relationships are, of course, his relationship with Lisa, who is Johnny's future wife, and Mark, who is Johnny's best friend. And from there, a lot of dramatic situations unfurl and are engendered in a very uniquely not dramatized, but in a uniquely interesting progression of narrative, let me put it that way. So, yes, so this is The Room, and it is a human drama of epic proportions. So, let me just say now that if you are wary of spoilers, please stop the video now, and you might be interested in watching The Room, or you might not. I don't know. It really depends on your point of view. I wouldn't be offended if you didn't want to watch The Room. Okay. But if you are so inclined to watch this very interesting film, please stop the video and watch the film, and then come back, and then we can, from there, talk about specific aspects of this film. This is truly a unique viewing experience, one of a kind. I think there are a lot of aspects of the film that are quite perplexing, but I think if one can, how should I put it? Well, actually, let me not even go there. It's a very unique viewing experience, let me just put it that way. So, with that in mind, my friends, please, you can turn off this video and then watch The Room and then come back anytime. And then we can talk about this incredibly dynamic, dramatic free-for-all that is Tommy Wiseau's The Room. I first saw this film actually when a friend of mine who was living here in Tokyo had a copy, and he lent it to me and I watched it. And so I was blown away. And around that time, this was well before the Disaster Artist came and the book was published and then the film came out. So this is well before that. So this is when The Room was still, it became a pop cultural sensation. And so I was curious, and so I borrowed a copy and I watched it. And after I finished, I was really quite, I don't know if moved is the right word. I think I was very kind of, I think I was kind of shocked in a way. There are many things that are very lovely and just funny about this film. I don't think it means to be funny, but there you go. And it just was something that was, I mean, I didn't go watch it religiously, but I would watch it now and again, and I'd always be taken with it. I've never seen The Disaster Artist, so I don't know, I don't have that frame of reference. I just have The Room, and that's it. But I think for me, The Room is enough because there is something very pure about this experience. And of course, I think it's very fun to poke fun at the film and to laugh at it and to be really swept up in the real absurdity of the work. I get it. I totally get it. But to its credit, I think we have to acknowledge that this is truly a one-of-a-kind experience that is a 100% expression of this particular artist, whose name is Tommy Wiseau. For whatever reason, he was able to express this story that he wanted, obviously, to talk about. And it became distilled in its essence in this film, The Room. So in many ways, I praise The Room because it is a mark of true individual expression. I mean that. I really mean that. It's true individual expression. And that's not so easy with cinema nowadays, if you think about it. So I praise Tommy Wiseau and his efforts here in The Room. Everything that I see when I watch it, I can believe that it's from the heart of Tommy Wiseau. And so yes, so there is something very pure and very charming about this film. With that in mind, I think what I can do is, rather than talk about the film in a way that I think many other people on YouTube have spoken about the film, you know, it's, as I said, videos on YouTube about The Room are, to borrow a line from Lisa, I think it's like the computer business. You know, it's very competitive. So I don't want to necessarily go down that route. But what I want to try to do instead, which is what I've always wanted to do with The Room, is because it's such a sincerely made film. Granted, it's a terrible film, but because it's a sincerely made film, let me try to talk about it on its terms, and just to see what the film is trying to get at with respect to its characters. So let's take the film on its own merits and on its own terms, because I think, I mean, Tommy Wiseau gave his heart, obviously, and many other things. I mean, he laid open his soul, and he was naked, and you see his you see his rear end and everything. So he really laid bare everything. And I have to admire that because, again, that's something that is very rare, I think. And so let me then approach the film on its merits, and let's see what we can come up with. So at its heart, of course, we have the character of Johnny, who is, of course, the central figure of this work. And he lives in this apartment in San Francisco, and he works at a bank. And he obviously makes a lot of money for the bank because he thinks of ideas and policies. And of course, obviously, according to him, they put all of his ideas into practice. But unfortunately, he doesn't get the promotion that he was so dearly expecting. And I think that is the crux of the matter, the narrative matter that starts the downward spiral, if you will, of the drama, which leads to the ultimate tragedy of the film in the chaotic nature of the room. But okay, so I think that's the very important part of Johnny. It's very interesting too because his interactions with people are all centered around his apartment, and it's very odd the way people come in and out of this apartment. It feels like an American sitcom. You remember those American sitcoms from the 70s and 80s and 90s when people seemed to be focused in on the set, which was the house or the room. I think, for example, things like Family Ties or The Golden Girls, right? Or Seinfeld even. Everyone seems to come in and out of whatever it is, the main character's apartment or whatever. So I always get the sense that the room is like a sitcom, an American sitcom. And I think it really works well in terms of sitcom vernacular or sitcom grammar, if you will, because everything is crisscross. All the characters crisscross in this one setting, more or less. So I think I can accept the film, The Room, in terms of sitcom language, grammar, and it becomes very interesting. Of course, the film is not only set there, but there are other places that the film takes place. There are shots outside, exterior shots on the roof, which I think is of the same building, although I'm not quite sure. I think it is. And a lot of things happen on the roof. A lot of things happen in the apartment. A lot of things happen outside, and so on and so forth. But if we can understand the film in terms of the sitcom aspect, then I think it can clear up a lot of things, at least in my mind anyway. Okay, so Johnny is the center of the action, and all the characters seem to surround him and to be connected by him. Every character, it's very interesting, every character is not concerned not about themselves necessarily, but they're concerned first and foremost about Johnny. So Lisa's mother seems to be concerned about Johnny first and foremost. She wants Lisa to marry Johnny, even though Lisa is expressing to her mother time and time again that Lisa does not love Johnny. It doesn't matter to her mother. Johnny will provide for her, and so she wants Lisa to marry Johnny, right? Because they are engaged, right? Because Lisa is Johnny's future wife. So from the mother's point of view, Johnny is a very important figure. And this is very interesting because she seems to care more about Johnny's feelings than she cares about her daughter's feelings. And this is also embroiled in the fact that she might have breast cancer. So it's a very interesting dynamic from the start. So I don't know. Her mother seems to be very fixated on Johnny in a very interesting way. Now, I'm not sure if it's to do with money issues or the like, or maybe if there's something more inherently complicated about the mother-daughter relationship, Lisa and her mother. I think it's the latter, although the former is not completely irrelevant. But the latter is the key, I think, the mother-daughter relationship. This is the key because if you recall, the mother-daughter relationship, the first time we see the mother talk to the daughter, it's after that scene that we see the seeds of Lisa's dissatisfaction with her relationship with Johnny. And I would dare say even that it's perhaps her mother's insistence that she stay with Johnny that perhaps is already the means or the seeds are being sown for Lisa's discontent with respect to her relationship with Johnny. So perhaps there is a bit of a kind of a Lisa wanting to reject what it is that her mother wants. So there is a very complicated relationship between Lisa and her mother. And I think that has a direct effect on Lisa's feelings towards Johnny, her future husband. Then, of course, we have Mark, who is bearded for most of the film until he decides to shave his beard off for whatever reason. I have no idea why. And he also forms the other aspect of Lisa and her sexual attraction to him. Although it seems like Lisa is very manipulative as a character, because later on we realize that she doesn't necessarily seem to love Mark as much as she wants to live her life. And if Mark is giving her sexual gratification, then that's great. But if there comes a point where Mark might not necessarily be satisfying as a partner for Lisa, then perhaps the implication is that she will dump him and find someone else. So she is already being depicted as a very almost femme fatale character in this film noir type film, The Room. And so it's a very interesting thing, because on the one hand she's depicted as being a very manipulative character, but on the other hand she is also seen as being very caring, maybe somewhat confused. We see her caring feelings come out, for instance, in her feelings towards Denny. Remember that wonderful scene where she confronts Denny about his drug problem. And this is after the drug dealer comes and is taken away. Let's take him to the police, right, according to Johnny. And so there is some caring there, and she is obviously very upset because Denny is like a son to Johnny. And what was I saying? Yeah, I'm sorry, I just forgot. I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, so yes, Lisa is very affectionate towards Denny. And although Denny seems to annoy Lisa at times because he seems to intrude upon moments of intimacy, he seems to love Lisa for some interesting reason, I'm not quite sure why, and the like. So perhaps even vis-a-vis Denny, Lisa's relationship is quite complex. So this is all to say, I think, that Lisa presents herself as being a very complicated character in many ways. She likes pizza, she likes drinking, and she lies. And so we know this because she lies about, of course, the fact that she is pregnant, and she just said it to make it interesting. But she seems to have a certain, I'm not sure what it is, her modus operandi is, except that she seems to just want to break free of this relationship with Johnny. And on the one hand, I must say that I don't necessarily blame her, because, again, her circle of friends, her mother, everyone seems to be so fixated on Johnny's well-being, right? Remember, at the party, everyone's worried not about her, but about Johnny, and about how her actions will affect Johnny. Everyone seems to be fixated on Johnny's well-being, and this comes to a head, of course, at the party. And this is where Stephen gives his great line, "I feel like I'm sitting on an atomic bomb waiting for it to go off." Me too. So, because everyone seems to be fixated on Johnny, I think Lisa perhaps feels like she's being neglected. And I don't blame her, because everyone is focused in on Johnny and his well-being. So, and I guess that's maybe that's not to be unexpected, because he is obviously very successful financially, and he does things at the bank, and I'm not sure what he does because it's confidential. And he seems to be helping people. He's obviously helping Denny, and right, even though Denny does some stupid things, right? You know better, right, Denny? You know better. So yes, but he seems to be very benevolent, and he's very caring about the people around him. So still, Johnny's world here is it's very focused on him. So everything is surrounding him and his own well-being. And it's basically when this world crumbles and falls apart, it's really the end. And therefore Johnny cannot survive in this world that is no longer functioning with him at the center. And therefore he has no choice but to leave the world and to commit suicide. I think one aspect of looking at this film, if one were, I don't know, had the time to, I suppose, would be to think about this film perhaps as a kind of fantasy of Johnny's that basically crumbles at the end because it cannot sustain the fact that Lisa, perhaps representing a kind of self-loathing within the psyche of Johnny himself, cannot stay together with him, which I think is an interesting dynamic, very interesting indeed. You know, this film presents a lot of aspects of Johnny's character that I think are really fascinating if one were so inclined to think about it. Take, for example, the very famous scene with the florist and the doggy. You know, he goes in and he wants to pick up a dozen red roses, right? Oh, hi, Johnny, I didn't know it was you. And so this is the very famous scene, right? And this is very important because if you recall in the sequence of events, this scene comes just before Johnny goes home and he tells Lisa that he didn't get the promotion. And so if you think about that juxtaposition, it's actually quite incredible. You know, the scene in The Florists is actually quite incredible because he is able to show, or he is so fixated on Lisa that even though he got this bad news that he didn't get the promotion at the bank, he is still so fixated on Lisa that he will go to the florist and get a dozen red roses or whatever, because he loves her so much. So on the one hand, it shows Johnny's benevolence. On the other hand, it shows Johnny's inner turmoil and confusion, right? Because, of course, he is so depressed because he didn't get the promotion. But the fact that he's at the florist and he has that frenzied conversation with the person at the front, the register there, and the doggy, and they have absolutely no connection in terms of their conversation. It's like I don't know what it is they're talking about. But I think if we were to take the film on its merits, I think we can look at that as being Johnny's inner turmoil becoming manifest in the fact that he cannot relate to other people. He cannot relate to the woman at the florist shop. And he tries to connect with the doggy, but it doesn't quite work out. And then he goes back to the house and he reveals that he didn't get the promotion, and then he gets drunk. And therein lies another aspect of the film that leads to the downfall, right? It's the story that is a result of that drunken night. You know, then Lisa then says to everyone that he hit her. And, you know, it's, he did not hit her, right? He did not. So all this confusion comes out in these various scenes. So I think if we were to take the film on its merits, we could look at that scene and say, wow, this is a great expression of both Johnny's benevolence on the one hand and then Johnny's inner turmoil on the other. I'm talking about the scene in the florist with the little doggy. Okay, so, yes, and it all comes to a head with, oh, I'm sorry, before we go there, I think it's also very interesting to see, for instance, they're throwing around a football in tuxedos. Why are they doing that? Why are they doing this? I have no idea. It's so confusing to me. I don't know why they're doing this. And I suppose what it could be, if we were to take the film at face value, it could be something like, right, tuxedos represent some kind of thing, right? And I think in this case, it probably is supposed to remind us of Johnny's plans to marry Lisa because he loves her so much, because she's so beautiful. And so I think on the one hand, the tuxedos are supposed to represent this dream of Johnny's to marry Lisa, but they're just throwing the football around. And so the football throwing seems to suggest to me to be perhaps Johnny's cavalier attitude towards marriage. And perhaps it's also a signifier to us, the viewer, that the dream of Johnny getting married to Lisa is not as stable as Johnny might like to think. And we see that because Peter falls down and it really ends up being nothing. And so therefore the football is a very ominous symbol in this film. Recall also that who else did Johnny throw a football around with, right? None other than Mark, who ends up being the antagonist of the film. So the football is almost like, I don't know if you know the film The Godfather, but there's a very interesting interplay in The Godfather with oranges. And I think the football has a similar ominous symbolism, very portentous perhaps. So, but in any event, that is, I think, what could be, it could be one interpretation of this very otherwise confusing aspect of the film. Then we have the party, and we have very interesting dynamics. Already there's a lot of confusing aspects of the party. Peter has disappeared from the narrative altogether, and he has, I think, been replaced by a new character named Stephen, who is very hot-headed for whatever reason. I have no idea why. And then he disappears, and that's it. And then we have many people who are assembling at the party, and I've never seen them before. And we see Lisa and Mark getting at it, and everything's becoming very risky. Up to now, they've been very clandestine with their affair. Of course, they had a lot of love scenes together. And so but at the party, everything comes to a head, and of course, it explodes in this great turmoil. And, you know, what is he going to do? I mean, Mark isn't a chicken, right? He's no cheap. So he's got to defend himself. And so there we go. Everything comes to a head at this party, and everything seems to explode, like the atomic bomb that Stephen was referring to. And indeed it does explode, because Johnny finds out the truth, because he was so clever to think of recording the telephone conversations. And things are revealed, and he realizes that Lisa and Mark are having an affair. And this is so earth-shattering to Johnny, that he has no choice but to basically destroy everything in the room. He has to throw out the TV, and we see the TV land with a great thud and crash outside. And then we have no choice. He loves the red dress. The red dress is a symbolic thing, and he rubs it around his lower torso. And yes, that's it. And he has no choice but to end his life in a very operatic flourish. We have the final denouement, or the final epilogue, if you will. And we have to, there's a moment, I, like Lisa, wonder, is he really dead? But he is dead, because therein lies a tragedy of the room. Johnny was either too pure for this world, or his psyche, if you will, could not withstand the possibility of rejection. So that is both the ultimate goodness of Johnny, but also the ultimate tragedy of Johnny in the room. So that is essentially my take on the room. And this, again, is just my own way of trying to approach the room on its merits. And I feel like in some way I owe it to the film, because I really feel that the room is in many ways a very sincere effort on the part of Tommy Wiseau to truly express what it is he wanted to express. And for that, I have to applaud him for that. It's as I said, a very unique film, a very wonderfully enchanting film from a certain point of view. Like maybe some of you are saying it like Luke Skywalker, right? From a certain point of view, right? But I really do believe that. And so, yes, this is The Room, a truly one-of-a-kind experience. I don't know if you have any thoughts or comments. If you have any comments, please, don't leave them in your pocket. Please leave them down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts or comments about The Room. I think it's a very unique experience. And, it's great to watch the film. You can order a pizza and watch the film, or you can just maybe drink hot chocolate or something and watch the film. It's really great. It's really great. And there are many mysteries about the film that I don't quite, to this day, I'm not quite sure. For instance, I'm not sure if he says, I hid YMCA or I hate YMCA. I think it's the former, although I think the latter interpretation lends itself to a much more interesting dynamic in that particular scene of the film. Does the mother really have breast cancer, or is it something maybe part of her state of mind? Because it might be a reflection of her own quite domineering nature, at least vis-a-vis Lisa. What was up with Denny and the drugs? Did Johnny really hit Lisa? I mean, that's a real mystery. I'm not quite sure. I always thought that it was a lie that Lisa was expressing, but Johnny is a very aggressive character, so it wouldn't have surprised me, perhaps, that Johnny could have hit her. I'm not sure. He was drunk, after all, and he doesn't usually drink, and so that is another, I think, interesting mystery of the film. I think the general consensus is that he did not hit her. He did not. But who knows? Who knows? Again, there are many mysteries. Another mystery is, why does the Blu-ray have this very poorly photoshopped effect on Johnny's eyes? I have no idea why. It has a very comic effect, and it really makes the Blu-ray, I think, quite frightening. This is a true story. When this Blu-ray arrived, I opened it, and my little son, infant son, who's 2, was crying because he thought the picture was very scary, so I had to hide it from him. So it's a very odd artistic choice on the part of the Blu-ray cover artist. I don't know, but who knows? There might be some inner deep meaning behind the closed eyes. Perhaps it's supposed to indicate some kind of thought. Okay. Johnny is, of course, one of the most incredible characters, truly incredible. And when I mean incredible, I really mean incredibly just goofy characters. And so I credit the writing. I think there are some efforts to be made to try to capture some kind of realism between guys, just people talking, right? And they're jogging, and I love the little bit. It's you don't quite, when Mark and Johnny are jogging, and it's not brought to the fore, but there's a conversation about how maybe Mark is thinking about getting some property, and so Mark is asking about possibilities of getting finance, and so that's thought very interesting because Johnny works at a bank. And also there's the mystery, of course, of what happened to Peter. What really happened to him? I'm not sure. It's still a mystery. And there are other aspects of the film that are quite bizarre. And to this day, I really have no idea what's going on. And I don't even know if I really want to. I think there's more charm in the fact that the mysteries remain unsolved, I mean, some things are like that. Think, for example, of Twin Peaks. I think a lot of people think that the Twin Peaks as a mystery is very charming. Well, perhaps, forget I was trying to make that comparison. And I think we should also credit the actors here. The trio of Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero and Juliette Daniel, I think are really quite impressive, and I really mean that. And there you have to look no further than the sex scenes. The sex, I've never acted in a film before, and I've never acted in a sex scene before, but I can imagine that as an actor, being in a sex scene in a film that's directed by Tommy Wiseau must be one of the most, intense, I don't know, but one of the most unique acting experiences. And so I have to credit, especially Juliette Daniel as Lisa and Greg Sestero. There's a lot of moaning and groaning, and there's a lot of Tommy Wiseau's how to explain coital pelvic thrust. And I mean, I don't know, as an actor, if I were to asked to do something like this, I don't think I'd be able to do it. But these guys were very into it, and so I have to applaud them for being so brave as actors. I thought that was really great. They really gave it their all, and so yes, so that is, I think, something to be applauded. But of course, it comes down to Tommy Wiseau, and he is, again, one of the most unique performers in this whole process. This is a one-of-a-kind performance. It's really quite memorable. You always think, what are some memorable performances in the history of cinema? I mean, who knows? You ask me, but whenever Tommy Wiseau is on screen, you just cannot get your eyes off of him. Even when he's naked. And you want to, avert your eyes. Really, you do, because he's naked. But you just can't, because there's something very oddly hypnotic about his performance. Very, in the way that his lines, many of his lines are overdubbed. And, let's go eat right? And he's got a lot of those intonations and nuances that are very uniquely Tommy Wiseau. And therefore, he is, I think, beloved by many. And he should be, because, again, he is really giving us his all. For better or for worse, whether you like it or not, he is giving us his all. And I respect that. But I cannot deny that this film is truly something that is from the heart. It is really something that is from the heart of this mad genius named Tommy Wiseau. So, my friends, my dear friends, that's it. And I hope you enjoyed this discussion of The Room today, April 1st, 2019. Yes. So, this is the Blu-ray. And again, if you are interested in the Blu-ray, just to let you know that it does have the Blu-ray disc inside, and it does have this postcard, which is Tommy Wiseau's picture, and it has the Tommy Wiseau underwear. Now, I'm not sure if this is a real thing or not. If it is, if any of you know if Tommy Wiseau's underwear can be bought through this particular method, please let me know. I'd be very interested to hear it. Other than that, my friends, yes, I hope you are happy and healthy and well, and that you continue to watch a lot of great movies. Until we meet again, my friends, cheers.